G'day and welcome to the Detour podcast. Today, special guest is Amanda Spratt, the Pocket Rocket. Amanda's our highest ranked woman cyclist from the Blue Mountains of New South Wales. She first raced in the elite level as a junior back in 2004, so that's going to give you a little snippet into how old she is. And she's been professional for just on a decade. Amanda, good morning in sunny Italy.
Good morning, John. Nice to be here.
So you're about to head off today. So when we finish this podcast, which is, we'll blame Dan Jones, the producer, we're 5 minutes late starting, but you're heading off virtually straight away to head to Spain for your first bike race in quite a while. So you must be nervous.
Yeah, I think nervous, excited. I tried to pack my suitcase last night and realised that I have no idea what to pack anymore. I think it's been almost 6 months since I've had to pretty much move anywhere or go to a race. So it feels really strange, but I'm sure once we're there, it's going to feel normal as well. But definitely just excited. It's been the longest period I think I've been in one place since I was probably at school. So I've just been training and finally ready to be back with the team and racing. That's what I love to do.
Yeah, so you're up in northern Italy. What's the weather been like just of late?
Yeah, so I was in in Livigno training at altitude. So the temperature there was sort of mid-20s, but it's definitely been creeping up in the last period. We're getting into the 30s now, and I just checked the weather. We're going to Pamplona is the first 2 races in the Basque country, and then closer to Bilbao, and I think it's going to be sort of 34, 35. So definitely hitting summer now.
So Pamplona, you're not chasing or running from any bulls or anything?
I hope not. I feel like I'd come off worse in that one.
So what are the races you're heading down there for?
So there's 3 races. So there's it's called the Navarra Women's Elite Classics. So there's 2 of those on Thursday, Friday, and then Durango one-day race on Sunday. So they're not World Tour races. Our World Tour calendar starts with Strade Bianche on August 1st, but it's going to be a World Tour field almost. I think 7 of the 8 World Tour teams are going to be on the start line. Everyone's just itching to sort of get a race in before we start the World Tour again. So it's going to be a really quality field, and it's just going to be so interesting to see how everyone's going after such a long period off.
Yeah, look, everyone's waiting with bated breath, as they say, back here in Australia as well, because, of course, we haven't had any racing either with our challenges, especially if you're from down Victoria, where I am. We've become the Mexicans of Australia. Luckily, yes. I'm out of Mexico. I'm in Geelong, so I had to travel. This weekend I'm up at Lakes Entrance, which is a lovely spot, but I had to drive through Mexico to get to Lakes Entrance, but got through okay.
Oh, gosh,
Now I'm going to introduce our sponsors, because without them there's no show, and they're great sponsors, and all 3 of them have got some connection with you, so that's interesting. So first of all, we've got Bike Exchange, who are the world marketplace for bikes. They have been a wonderful partner of cycling. They've been a sponsor of your women's team. I've seen you guys racing with Bike Exchange on your jerseys. And we say, if you do your research, read up the latest on the 2020 bike or tech releases, and browse the Bike Exchange blog. They are, the world marketplace for bikes, a great sponsor. And I'm sure you've got plenty of friends who have jumped on, bought bikes through Bike Exchange, especially at the moment when it's hard to get a bike in a bike shop in Australia because there's a shortage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such an easy way to jump on and search, and it's worldwide, so you can see what's near you and what's affordable, and it's a super way to be able to get hold of a bike.
Yeah, in 8 countries around the world. And of course, Let's Go Motorhomes. So get out and explore your backyard, hire a Let's Go motorhome or camp van for your next great escape, and take your bikes along for the adventure. Also, Andrew at Let's Go asked me to ask you a question. He said, if you had a Let's Go motorhome, so there might be someone in the offer, I don't know, in the offing.
Maybe.
But, where would you go with the Let's Go motorhome?
I think I probably should say through the Blue Mountains, where I'm from. But I think I have this a bucket list wish, I think, is to have a motorhome, let's go motorhome, and to travel around Australia. But for sure, I'd love to just travel the whole way up the East Coast from bottom to top with a motorhome. That would be my ideal. But it is like when I retire, it would be a bucket list thing to just travel around Australia for 3-6 months, however long it takes, and just explore our beautiful country.
Well, I mean, by the fact that you had your first race back in 2004 shows you've been racing for a long while. Is retirement, and I'm not pushing you to this because your form has just been getting better and better over the last few years, and you're in the form of your life. So I'm not, but is it something that you have set a date for or anything?
Nah, there's no date or anything set on that. I think at the moment I'm still loving racing and training, and I think I am just getting better and better and better. So for me, there's no eyes on retirement at the moment. I think when the time comes, I'll probably know it, but it'll still be a hard decision, I think. I mean, as you said, I've been racing forever. I've been on my bike since 9 years old racing, actually. So it'll be a really hard decision when the time comes. But at the moment, I think I'm just getting better and better and really enjoying it. So no sign of retirement yet.
And our other sponsor is Lexus of Blackburn, who you do know very well. They've been great sponsors of cycling, and you personally. So they always help you out with a lovely Lexus when you're down in Melbourne for in the summer series. But the Moore family, Andrew, Sarah, Bethany, and Tim, you've met them all, of course, and they're wonderful partners in all of our cycling.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the support of Andrew at Lexus and the whole company. And I think they're really also supporting women's cycling as well with the Sun Tour and the Bay Crits. So I think the investment and the support they're showing for women's cycling makes me pretty proud as well. So
when you do hit that bucket list thing and retire, I guess a nice, rather than let's go motorhome, maybe a Jayco caravan hooked onto a really nice new Lexus from Blackburn would be the perfect option.
Yep, you can organise that for me, and that'd be great. That'd be the dream.
Yeah, well, I want to do that myself, and I think I'll be doing it long before you. I'll be running out of years, but. So, look, I thought we'll get straight into it. It's fantastic to have you on board. You've been a great supporter of my Bay Classic over the years. How many years have you done? You've only missed one, I think, in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I was trying to work this out. I think I've missed one because I was injured, so I actually couldn't be there. But apart from that, I think I've done every single year since 2000 and is it either 2003 or 2004 or
Wow.
I'm not sure. So I think it's about 15 or 16 now. But I love it. Such a good way to start the year.
I haven't missed any in that time, but anyway, so obviously 2020 has been a strange year. How have you handled the season hiatus so far?
It's been a challenge, I think in the start, like we came to Europe and then we were training and there were sort of murmurs of races getting cancelled and then the first couple were cancelled and it was like, okay, it'll be a few weeks before we're racing again. And you sort of looked ahead and my firm focus was on the Ardennes. So that period wasn't too hard. And then, our team was one of the first actually to say that even if the race is on, we're not going to go, we're going to prioritise your health. So actually I'm really grateful that our team was quite quick in making that decision. So you knew there was going to be a period of no racing, but then everything just started getting cancelled. And then obviously, the pandemic just escalated and you realised quite quickly that it was a really serious situation. Cycling aside, it's a really serious health situation. So I think most of the concern was around loved ones and just trying to be responsible and do what we can to get this under control. But obviously, like the training motivation in the beginning went really down. Jean, my coach, gave me 5 or 6 days off. I just went out training and sort of felt, what's the purpose of even training? I don't have any goals now. And I think most athletes would have found themselves in that position. But I'd say like over the last couple of months since the UCI calendar came out and we knew, okay, we're going to be racing soon, then you sort of had something to to look towards again and something to look forward to. So I think the last couple of months in particular has been a lot easier.
So the area you're in northern Italy, it was hit very badly in the early days of the pandemic. That must have been scary.
Yeah, so I was in, it was right before Strada, I think it was. So I was in northern Italy, and then, yeah, I made a decision to come to Switzerland, where I also have a base here with my partner. So I was in Switzerland for most of the time when there was actually the lockdown, which was, yeah, fortunate for my training. I could still go outside, but certainly, like, yeah, it was quite scary just hearing from people who were in Italy and the lockdowns that were happening, and certainly the death toll just kept rising. And I think, yeah, it was a really hard time for everyone. And I think, yeah, if someone told you at the beginning of the year that this is how 2020 was going to play out, it just would have seemed crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think in the end, yeah, I think the lockdown was really hard for everyone, but I think now everyone's come out of it with a new appreciation, that's for sure, for being able to be outside and still acting really responsibly as well.
So have you picked up any new skills in your period of lockdown? I know a lot of the cyclists have taken up bread making. So what's your new skill?
I'm not sure if doing puzzles is a new skill. I was following the sort of sourdough bread making. I did think about getting a starter and then quickly threw that out the window. But I was enjoying just cooking and using my oven a lot. I really love cooking with an oven. And then I went to altitude in Livigno and didn't have an oven, so that was a bit sad. But yeah, I can't say there weren't too many new skills. But yeah, I have a very handy collection of 1,000-piece puzzles that I completed at a past date, so I don't know what I'm actually going to do with all of them, but yeah, that was my little hobby during the time.
But has this break made you reevaluate what's important to you and change your perspective on anything?
Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, obviously, like, cycling is my job and cycling is my life, but you also realize that, yeah, when something like this happens, you realize that there are other things. Like, I think you know it, but it also makes you realize what's also important. And you think about, I spend 10 months of the year over in Europe, and my family are all in Australia. And certainly once, like, Australia put the travel bans in place, and it's really hard, I think now, almost impossible to get back to Australia on an economy class ticket. So you sort of realize how far away you are at times, and some of your support network is there. So that's sort of been hard at times, and wondering how they're going and wanting to support. So yeah, I think it's just made me realize, yeah, that a bit more as well.
It's going to be, I'll slot this one in now because you brought it up. Getting back this summer is not going to be easy. I know I talk to Stewie all the time about how, because the Tour Down Under is the first big race that he'll be working his first Tour Down Under. He's pretty confident that they'll be able to charter flights and all that. But you guys need to get back before that for even more important races like the Bay Crits and the Nationals, of course, which is very important to you, you're a defending champ. So how do you think that's all going to pan out?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think at the moment it feels like the rules and restrictions and everything are changing so often. It's really hard to say right now how it's going to go. At the moment, it's virtually impossible, I think, for us to get back on an economy class with the numbers that they're letting into Australia each day. It's essentially business or first class that are taking up the quota. So we're hopeful. I mean, there's a few months between when we'll be wanting to get back to Australia, but it looks like probably the hotel quarantine will still be in place. So we'll have a nice little 2-week holiday upon arrival in a hotel, which is necessary. But hopefully that can all go smoothly and we can be there for the Aussie summer. And yeah, hopefully everything's improving by then and the Aussie summer can also happen.
Yes, let's hope. We've all got our fingers and toes crossed on that one. Do you feel that the crisis, that through that you see more strength and resilience coming to the front from the teammates and friends?
Yeah, I think you do. I think, like I said before, I think if someone told you at the beginning of this year that this is how it was going to happen, you would have just thought they were crazy. But I think, I look at my teammates, like, we were pretty lucky in the women's team that most of us were not in countries or places where we actually had to be in the full lockdown. The only rider we had was Jess Allen. She was in Girona in Spain. And for me, I felt inspired by her. Like, I tried to keep in touch with her quite often, and we chatted quite a few times. And every time I kept thinking, oh, she's going to be, hating the world, and it's just going to be too much. And every time, she's just bubbly and happy like always. And I mean, I know she would have had her bad days, but I think, I drew a lot of inspiration when I was feeling, a bit down about things, from people like Jess, who were in lockdown and still just making the most of it. So, for me, that showed a real sense of resilience and being able just to cope with the situation.
So how has that bond between you and your teammates gone through that period?
That's been good, actually. We've early in the piece we had a few more like Zoom catch up, coffee, whatever you want to call it, meetings, just talking shit with each other. And as the racing's come closer, we've started to have more, I guess, sort of team meetings with our DSs, Alejandro and Martin as well. But we also have like a WhatsApp group with the entire team on it, which has been great. There's been, certainly in the early days when it was quite hard, there was just a lot of jokes on there and just funny things that make you laugh. Like, not always a lot of serious talk. I think, we also have a lot of fun off the bike. So it was just fun to get stuff like that and just have a good laugh in what is actually a really serious time.
So I think I had this question further down, but you've led to it there. Who are the real jokers in the team?
I think Roy, from Sarah Roy. She's probably the one that makes me laugh the most. It's just, she has some pretty ridiculous stories and can tell you about how she ate an omelette and have you laughing. So it seems like a normal story. I think if I told the same story, you just stare blankly at me, but when she tells it, you can't help but smile. And certainly Jess. I mean, I had a message from Jess yesterday. She went and tried to do a 5-hour ride, which ended up being 7 hours. And I don't know, she was basically in the middle of nowhere and lost, and somehow got home. And we're all just laughing about it. So I think, between those two, it's always a good time in the team, and you always find yourself laughing. So
there's been a lot of focus on mental health in recent times. It's coming before. I know of 3 young, same year as my young grandson at school, three youngsters around 17 who committed suicide in this year, which is absolutely unbelievable. It is. And how do you feel, but with cycling, with being this time in lockdown, how people seem to handle that extra pressure?
I think in general, good. Like I said before, I know for sure people were having bad days. I think with our team, they really prioritised the mental health and offered that support from the very start, and also were checking in on people to make sure everything's going okay, particularly the people who were really in that lockdown. But I think, it wasn't an easy situation for anyone. And I think, some people have partners or, they're in lockdown with those people, but there are other people that were by themselves essentially for I don't know how long the lockdown was in the end, 8-10 weeks, just with their own company almost. So I think they were the people that were sort of causing the most worry. But I think for the most part, I think everyone managed to get through it pretty well.
So, of course, now that there's a goal and some racing, that's going to help everyone, of course. Now, a lot of the training and racing you've been doing has been online. And how have you found Zwift? I hear you're becoming addicted. Eh?
I know. Well, I didn't. I've been supported by Zwift for a while, but I hadn't really gotten into it yet. And then obviously with the lockdown, and like I said, I wasn't actually in a country where I was required to stay inside, but I found myself getting on Zwift and then doing a few more Zwift rides, and then all of a sudden I was riding on Zwift when it was sunny outside, questioning myself, just thinking I'm totally crazy. And during the lockdown, we also had a team ride every week, just with the team. So we had like the staff on there, some of the riders came on. So for me, it surprised me actually the social aspect of Zwift, and it was just really a way to feel connected when everyone's all in different places and you can all just get on there and try to smash your coach or your DS, or try to keep up with the guys. It was just a really fun way to stay connected, I think. And I've done one race now on Zwift, and it was one for Scott Sports, a multi-discipline race with the triathletes, mountain bikers, and road riders. And I swear, I think it's the hardest race I've ever done. It was harder than any World Tour race, but it's a short race. It was 30 minutes, but it was just, we all said, okay, we'll have a neutral lap, and then we started, and it definitely wasn't neutral. Everyone was just so all this like competitive energy just built up over so much time, and then we were finally allowed to unleash it. And oh gosh, I think I'm still recovering.
Now, the Olympics, with I know they're very important to you, and the season's about to start. The Olympics have been moved to next year. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the right decision. It's definitely a good decision. I think there's no way it could have been held this year with the current world health situation. It's just not possible. I think, the only decision was to move it to next year, and I'm really hopeful that by that point we can have a vaccine and that it will be safe to hold the games. And I think once the decision was made, it was more a sense of relief. Okay, like we know for sure now that it's going to be next year, not this year. And whilst it was disappointing, like obviously all the preparation and the eyes were on this year, I think, it's just nice that we still have it. It hasn't been cancelled entirely. They've postponed it. So it's next year, and that's what I can go and train towards now.
So what makes the Olympics so special for you?
I think, as a young girl, you always dreamt or watched the Olympics on TV, and you always dreamt of maybe one day being able to go there and compete. I think it's the ultimate goal as an athlete to be able to get there, and certainly as a young kid growing up, everyone's talking about the Olympics. You meet an Olympic athlete, and it was like, wow, your dream came true. So I think, in Australia, the Olympics are really seen as something really important. So you grow up with that feeling already. And then it's just a chance. Any chance I have to wear the green and golden is an amazing opportunity. And I'm so proud that I've been to 2 already, and hopefully I can make it 3 next year. But it's just, I think, the fact that you have all sports coming together and everyone has this sort of same goal to win Olympic gold for their country. And it's just sort of this intense but a really cool atmosphere to be involved with.
Who's the most famous person that you bumped into at the Olympics?
Gosh, it's like a hard one. I think a lot of the most famous athletes, they don't end up staying in the village because they'll just get people asking them for autographs all the time. I remember in London, I think the Prince William, I think, was there, and that was a bit like not at all a royal family buff, but this was still felt a bit like, oh my gosh. But for the most part, it's just amazing to see all the different athletes from all different sports. And I'm not a very tall person, so I normally feel like a complete small, like it's almost funny to try and get photos or see yourself next to like a basketballer or something and just be amazed that they're literally like twice your size. It's just incredible.
I mean, I was lucky enough to go to a games back in '72, and everyone stayed in the village then. You weren't allowed to go out and stay outside, so I found it fantastic. And the atmosphere in the village at breakfast, when everyone's bumping each other out of the way, I found really brilliant.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? In the dining hall with all different sports, and it's like it's the size of a football field almost, or more than that for just the dining hall.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the Olympics and the World Championships are very different in that you're racing at the top level of your sport, but you're not racing with your normal teammates. You're racing as a national team, and it's a very different scenario.
Yeah, it's definitely really strange. And I think, I'm teammates with Annemiek van Vlueten, the current world champion. So a lot of the time in races, we're working off each other and trying to get the best result, or I'm really working hard for her to get the result. And then all of a sudden we swap over to the World Championships for one race, essentially one race in an entire season, where competitors, not teammates. So that can be a bit strange. You kind of think it goes both ways. Like I do think I know more about the way, for example, that she might operate. And on the other hand, she probably thinks she knows more about me. So it does have its advantages. But yeah, it's certainly a strange feeling. But I do love it. I love the fact that then you can all come together as an Australian team, and all the Aussies from all the different trade teams come together. And it almost feels a bit like coming home as well. And it just has that really nice feeling all of a sudden to be just with your Australian teammates.
So, in the World Championships, like the last two editions, you have rode brilliantly with the second and third placings. But do you get a bit conflicted when Annemiek went so early last year, and then the strongest riders to Jason were her teammates, aside from you guys? Were you conflicted at all, knowing she could stay away that long, even though it was ridiculously early?
Yeah, I know Annemiek pretty well, and I know that she's up for doing crazy things like that. And I did have a very good feeling that this is exactly what she was going to do in Yorkshire, because, I mean, the Finnish circuit probably wasn't going to be hard enough for her to make a real difference like what she did on that climb. So it definitely wasn't unexpected. And then, I found myself in that group of, I think, 8 of us that were chasing, and we were holding the gap for a long time there. And I actually still didn't think it was game over at that point. I was still confident that if we kept it, less than a minute heading into the Finnish circuit, so there still was that chance to jump across or form a group that could get across to her. But then I think people started to panic. I think we were almost still 20 Ks from the final circuits, and there were attacks happening. And at that point, that's when all, cooperation out of our group went away, and that's when her gap really went out. But I think, she had an incredible ride that day and came away a deserving champion. And I think, crazy tactics, but it certainly worked for her. And if anyone can pull it off, it's her. Yeah.
Yeah, probably the best world title win I've seen, man or woman. I thought it was just amazing. Yeah. But your development over the last 10 years, you've come from a really good team rider in there doing the hard work. It's virtually a super domestique a few years back to the stage where now you're one of the superstars of our sport, with third and second in the world titles, but some great wins. What's been the key to that success?
Thanks. Yeah, I think just having that consistency over a number of years now. I've been with Mitchelton Scott since it started in 2012, so I have had 9 or 1 year before that with the national team, sort of 10 years now of really solid racing in Europe, and just getting older and getting that strength and that endurance. And I think, working with my coach, Jean Bates, now for quite a number of years has been another really big factor in just giving me that continuity. And he's a coach that's always really challenging me, and it's not always the same training. It's mentally stimulating and physically stimulating. And this makes me really excited to train every day. So I really enjoy working with him. And I think that's been a big factor in the last few years, is just really, nailing that relationship. And that's, been really, really challenging and really fun at the same time. So I think that's really helped me grow as a rider. And aside from that, I think it's just getting older and more experienced and more calm in the races. And I think along with that, it's just been becoming a lot more confident in myself and confident in my ability and what I can do as well on the bike. Learning from some great teammates like my teammate Annemiek. So, we've roomed together a lot, so learning from her. And
so a few years back, you did have a major challenge with injury, and you missed a fair bit of the year. What year was that?
Yeah, so 2008 and 9.
Yeah. So take us through that, because I've had people say to me they were as impressed from what you did in your rehab as anything you've done in all your racing career. The way you just knuckled down, teammates away overseas, you were stuck in Australia having to do that rehab, the AIS and all of that. Take us through that. Yeah,
so this was probably the most difficult period in my life, really, I think, certainly in my cycling career. So in 2008 and 2009, essentially, I wasn't racing. I started at the beginning of 2008 racing and then stopped. So I'd had sort of a nerve injury or a nerve problem for a few years that was undiagnosed, or I was just too young and too scared really to say anything. So by the time that I did, it was a lot worse than what it should have been. So in 2008, I was diagnosed with Piriformis Syndrome. So my nerve wasn't going through the muscle. It was just attached to it from chronic scar tissue from the pain that I was just going through all the time. It eventually just detached, and I basically had, really bad. I couldn't feel my leg. It got to the point where I was on a ditch on the side of the road in France, and I couldn't ride, literally couldn't turn another pedal stroke. And at that point, they sent me back to Australia, to the Australian Institute of Sport, and essentially I lived there for over a year. I had surgery and then rehabbed, living in Canberra with an amazing team like Greg Lovell, Dr. Craig Purdon, physio. Yeah, I just had an amazing group around me that were really supporting me to get back. But it started, I could do 5 minutes to get on the bike, and slowly I could start to do a bit more riding. But I think in the end I had over 6 months where I couldn't be on a bike, but I was trying to do all different things where I wasn't, sitting, I guess, was the real big issue. And I also lost so much muscle, so it was just trying to get that back. And I got to the point where I could ride again, but every time I rode, I still had this really, really bad chronic pain. And so, my brain, I had so much pain for so long that my brain associated cycling only with this really bad pain. So in the end, it took Laura Mosley, a pain expert, coming in and working with me to go through sort of how to retrain my brain. So that was a really big factor in my rehab, was how to change the way my brain thought of cycling. So that worked. It was a really long road back, and the first couple of seasons I still had quite a bit of pain, but I knew I could manage it well. Now everything's going really well, but it was certainly such a challenging time physically, but also mentally. I was in quite a bad place mentally as well, trying to get through this. And I think you mentioned, I'd wave off my teammates to go and race overseas and watch from afar, and that's where I wanted to be. And it was just frustrating that I couldn't be there. And I had people tell me maybe I should retire, maybe I should give up. We're not sure if it's going to get better. But at the same time, I had amazing support from family, from the people I was closely working with at the AIS that really believed in me. So I think now it makes all the results I get even more sweeter. And I hope that they're watching and as proud as what I am of the results I can get now.
Well, I really do believe that that helped make you the person you are. That the tenaciousness that you showed through that time has now come to the front in your racing. It's fantastic. Do you feel that the younger riders, because we've got a host of youngsters coming through at the moment, you think they understand what lies ahead of them and what can lie ahead of them, knowing what you know now?
I think it's impossible to know everything. I think as a young rider, I had no idea. I remember getting on a plane as an 18-year-old and coming over to Europe to race, and just I had no idea what I was getting myself into. You're living in a foreign country, you don't speak the language. I mean, I have to say I was quite fortunate. I came over with the Australian Institute of Sport team, so I had that incredible support. But I mean, it's different racing in Europe. You're racing with 120, 130 or more riders, and you're trying to figure out how to race, and you're trying to figure out how to live in a foreign country. So I think I'm a little bit sad that, well, not a little bit, very sad that there's not sort of that Australian women's road team anymore, which I had the support when I came over. But I think what's important for young riders to understand is that that's not the only way. I think you look at riders like Sarah Roy or Chloe Hosking that came over and made a name for themselves without that pathway. So I think that's something that's really important as well, to understand that it may be harder now, but there's still definitely a way to get over here. And I think, a lot of us who are here and are experienced are more than happy to share our knowledge or give a hand when we can.
So we touched on Annemiek a few minutes ago, but how important to the Michelin Scott team is Annemiek?
Yeah, I think she's been really important to the team, and I can say, to me personally and in my development, I think she's been here for, I think this is her fifth year now on the team, and I can say that I've learned so much from her in that time, and probably particularly the last 2-3 years, I've really seen a lot more, or we've become a lot closer, and we room together a lot of the bigger races like the Giro, for example. So I get to see firsthand exactly what it takes to prepare and to win a race like that. So she's quite generous with her knowledge as well. You can always ask her a question, and I think just having such a champion like that on the team, you can't help but admire it and want to learn from her. And I think she has lifted the level overall of the team.
So on the flip side of that, how do you feel that you've helped her develop as a rider?
Many ways. No.
You're going to be flippant
Yeah.
here, but I'm sure she has learned from you, because you don't come much more determined than you, Spratty.
Yeah, no, I think it probably has gone both ways. I know, I think tactically sometimes, she asks me or looks to me in races to know what to do. So I think, I can often give her advice around that. And like I said before, we do room together a lot. I'm always on her to do a bit more stretching when she can, because neither of us are A+ students at stretching. So I think we always try to motivate each other, and also just share some knowledge. If we find something, oh hey, have you heard about this? Then we'll talk to each other about it, or share an opinion. So I think it goes both ways for sure.
So we're going to take a little break, and when we return, it's all about the challenges ahead.
Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
So, Spratty, the season's only days away. We touched earlier, but what's your plan in these early races? Is it something you think you could get straight up into the on the podium in one of these?
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting. It's almost 6 months between races for me, so there's so much unknown, as there is with everyone. But I do know that throughout this whole period of no racing, I've been able to keep quite a good level. In general, I can come off a good training block and race again pretty quickly. So I'm optimistic about the races coming up. I think I have good form, as do a few of my teammates as well, quite ready to race. Lucy Kennedy, I expect to be good, as well as Annemiek. So I think there are 2 hilly races and 1 flat race. So certainly eyeing the hillier races to really go for a result. And it'd be nice to start the season with a good result before we then head to the World Tour at Strade Bianche.
And that's not that far away either. And that's a course that really does suit you. How many times have you done Strade Bianche?
I think I've done Strade every year now. So I think we've had 5 editions, and I've been there every year. Last year, I crashed out with a concussion quite early on, but then Annemiek won the race. So any thoughts of concern for me were over when I heard that she won. So it's one of those epic races, and I think it's going to be different. It's going to be 1st of August. So normally for Strade, we're waking up in the pitch black and going to breakfast, walking across the snow to get to Breckie. And now it'll be probably already 30-something degrees at breakfast time, and it's going to be a big dust bowl, hot, stormy race. So I can't wait.
So, do you know much about what's going to happen in the preparations and everything with the pandemic, with the COVID-19? What changes are going to be in place for you at these events?
Yes, I know. We obviously have the UCI requirements about what they're going to do at races, and requirements for testing and this kind of thing. But within every team, I think most teams are coming up with their own health protocol. Our team's no exception. So we have a protocol called Race Safe that will be our health protocol moving forward. It's going to involve things like always wearing masks. We are required to get 2 COVID tests before we're allowed to go to races, and they have to be negative. So I've just done my 2nd one this morning and waiting for the courier to come and pick that up. Things like that. Obviously, essentially every team's going to have a bubble. So you're going to, once you're in the bubble, that's sort of the safe zone, and minimal contact with the outside people. So for my feeling, once we're in the race and at the race, that's sort of, there's so many precautions, and hopefully all the teams are taking the same measures as us, and that's going to be quite a safe period. I think the more unknown is when we're not at races and we're traveling, and, we can't control as much then either.
And that's exactly my next point, because we're about to embark on probably the most amazing few months, trying to pack our whole season into about a third of the time. So a lot of travelling with the Giro, with all of the classics, and a lot of different hotels. It must make you very nervous.
Yeah, I still feel a bit nervous, and some part of me doesn't know if it's maybe too soon, but then again, at some point, we have to coexist with the virus and learn to live with it. But I think what we can do is really act responsibly, and that's what we're doing with the team protocols and really taking it seriously. But I mean, you're right. There's that element of risk, and I'm not sure will we get through 3 months of racing. We have to wait and see how I think the first races go and how the situation evolves. But I think certainly I'm more worried in something like a tour where you're in one hotel and then the next day you're 200 kilometers away in another hotel and then another hotel and then you're on the road, and the potential for spreading a virus then is definitely greater.
So what's the date of the Giro? So when's
the Giro for us is before Worlds. So we finished on the 19th, so the 10th, around the 10th, 11th to the 19th.
And the Worlds this year is a really nice course for you. So that will be, I'm sure, one of your major aims for the year.
Yeah. So the Worlds, I'm already smiling thinking about it. That's my biggest goal for the end of the season. So yeah, pretty much from mid-September until mid-October, I have the Giro, World Championships, and then the Ardennes Classics. That's sort of the period that I'm really targeting to hopefully be on the podium and winning races in that time. And the World Championships is at the top of that. I've ridden the course a couple of times last year. I've been back there again this year. I'm going to base myself in that area in August, I think. So yeah, I'm really got all eyes focused on trying to get that rainbow jersey for Australia. And I think, yeah, with the team that we can have for that course, I think it's a great course for the Australian team. And I'm hopeful that we can have a great race there.
It seems strange to be talking about preparing for all those races in that one little area of time, like the Giro and then the Ardennes Classic, the World Championship. It's just they're normally miles apart.
I know. I think any cycling fan in Australia is just going to be chronically sleep deprived for about 3 months, and then they'll have to try and get on top of it again.
It's going to be amazing. There's one in the men. I think there's 3 races on the one day. I don't know how we're going to watch all of those. But
anyway, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be great. Women's racing has taken a really big leap, I feel, in the last 2 years, as in recognition. People are now switching on, and maybe it's the social media and the way it's all on some different form of watching on the net. But it seems to have really taken on. What's your thoughts on that in the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. I think on a number of fronts, I think the teams are getting a lot more professional. I think if you were involved in women's cycling a few years ago and you tried to come back in now, it's not the same now. There's so many things have developed. Even in the last sort of 2-3 years, it's hard to compare even between those years. We're seeing a lot more. Like when I first started, there was probably one team I'd even consider going to. Now there's 8, 10 really, really awesome, great teams. So that in itself is lending itself to better competition. And I think whenever anyone watches a women's race, they realize how exciting it is. They're shorter races. We're racing from the gun. I think it's more unpredictable as well. I think, we can really put on a good show. So I think people realize that when they get to watch it. And so the demand is getting greater for being able to watch the racing. And it's great to see, more broadcasters wanting to show it as well.
And I think you nailed it in that last part, because the women's racing has become fantastic to watch because it's been very aggressive. And the earlier days where it used to be, just a bunch riding, at a set tempo sort of thing. Whereas now it's fantastic racing. But still, you guys have got a long way, or you gals have got a long way to catch up to the guys in the prize money and the parity. I mean, I think it shouldn't be equal prize money at the moment, but it should be a lot better than what it is. Can you see a time in the near future where that can get closer and closer together?
I hope so. I don't know if parity is going to happen in my lifetime, but it's certainly on the up. And I think, as I said before, I think we're taking it a lot more seriously now, and you can see that even with the teams and the team structures. And I think more sponsors are becoming interested in women's cycling as well. You can see that with a number of teams. So that's really important, that people want to support women's cycling. And yeah, there are more and more races now as well that are giving that equal prize money, which is great. But for me, yeah, the biggest step is just getting more women cycling on TV so people can see it, and then people realise the return on investment if they do invest in women's cycling as well.
Well, the Bay Crits was the first race to make equal prize money for the ladies and the guys. So there you go.
Another reason I love the Bay Crits.
Lex the Blackburn, great Bay Crits. Give them another mention. Women's Tour de France. I mean, there was a women's Tour de France back in the 80s. It was fantastic. And they rode at the same time as the men's Tour de France. They rode, most of the same days, a little bit shorter stages. It seemed like it was going to just keep going, but it just completely fell away. Can you see a time when it comes back?
I'd like to think so, yeah. I think I get a bit annoyed when people are lobbying for the Women's Tour de France and say that we want to race the same distance and everything as the men. I don't think if you asked anyone in the peloton now if we want to be racing the same distance as the men, I think the answer would very much be no. I think, we want races the same length that we're doing, 120 to 160 kilometers, really exciting racing. And I think, we've seen like La Course develop a little bit, and then it seems to have gone a few steps back again. Just, it looked like it was going to become a tour, and now it's a one-day race again. So I'd really love to think that, we could see a Women's Tour de France. I've heard rumours of them trying to organise one next year or the year after, I think. So I hope that, that's true. But at the same time, it's a bit conflicting because we have other races that are really amazing for women's cycling, like the Tour of Britain, that really do everything for the women's peloton and really want to make their race great. So I think it's important, that we have that balance where we're really supporting the races that want to support us. But at the same time, the Tour de France is, the one cycling race that probably everyone in the world knows and everyone's heard of. So I do think that it's also important for us to be able to have that platform to race as well, the Tour de France.
Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this question before I ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If there's one victory that you can achieve this season, what would it be?
I think you do know the answer. The World Championships in Switzerland would be the ultimate dream to win that race. I've been third last year, second the year before. I know the course this year is crazy hard. We have a really, really hard finish circuit with a really hard climb. Done a lot of research. We know what the course demands are, so I'm really training heavily towards that. That would be the ultimate goal.
Okay. So, look, it's been fantastic catching up. I've got my 3 questions from the fans from Bike Exchange. First one comes from Tanner, and it's a simple question. How do you do it?
I don't know. A lot of hard work. Look, I think I couldn't have this lifestyle or do this if number one, I didn't enjoy it and I wasn't passionate about it. So I think that's what enables me to do it, is that I love cycling. I love everything about it. I've been on the bike since I was 9 racing. I've been essentially living in Europe since I was 18. So for me, I love it. I have a lot of passion. I love just sitting on the couch and watching a bike race. I don't have to be out there cycling myself. So I think that's how I'm able to do it. I just love having goals and going towards them and working together with my team as well. That's what makes it exciting and fun for me.
Now, from Edward Jones, he says, what's it like to be a pro?
It's a lot of hard work to be a pro. I think some people sometimes think we're just on a European vacation over here, but it's certainly, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of training hours that go into it. But it's also really enjoyable to be a pro and to be in this supportive environment like Mitchelton Scott. We're really supported. We have a great team. And for me, it's just fun to be a part of a team that's all working together towards one goal. And that's something I really love about pro cycling, is just, being in that group of everyone's really motivated to achieve something. And you really feel that when you're on the start line or in a race.
Yeah. And the final one from Navy Scrubs. The thing you like most outside cycling?
The thing I like most outside cycling, I think, is just spending time with my loved ones, with my family, exploring nature and being outside. If I'm not, I really enjoy just hiking and being out in the nature and just appreciating where I am. Like, I think it's amazing that I get to spend so much time here. I'm the same in Australia. I love going back. I'm from the Blue Mountains, so I love just being able to appreciate where I live or the opportunities that this life gives me. So that's really important to me.
So, Amanda, it's been absolutely brilliant talking with you, as always. I hope you have a great year. We'll be really looking forward to that world title, but all of the races coming up. Looking forward to catching up back in Oz this summer. Unfortunately, this is the first July that I've been in Australia for 22 years, so I'm not enjoying that at all, I can tell you. And
Winter.
I'd love to be able to. Yes. But I'm back on the bike myself. I might need to find one of those special coaches you talked about to help me with the pain that I'm feeling in my cycling at the moment. But look, it's been absolutely it's been wonderful talking with you. Have a great season and be safe.
Yeah, thanks, John. Awesome to be here.